Now for a quick Devar Torah. As we do the Seder, we'll be coming across the four sons. And we think of them as brothers. In actuality, it's four different generations. The wise son is asking all these intricate questions about the Seder and uh, Pesach, Passover, about what is this, what is that, how do you handle these? And he's not interested in feelings. He's only interested in facts. What's the Jewish law with regards to this? What's the Jewish law with regard to that? He is basically looking at the mechanics. And we answer him, interestingly, by saying after the afikomen, you don't eat anything. In other words, after dessert, that's it. No more food. Uh, because you have to explain to him, yes, you're on the right track. You're concerned with all the Jewish laws concerning the Seder and all that. However, you're missing the point. The point is, as I mentioned, you have to experience the Seder. You have to look at it that you were taken out of Egypt yourself. And that's the meaning of the answer to him. Experience the Seder. It's not just you following laws. Next, and like his son is the one who becomes a Rasha. Because to him, everything's a bother. And his philosophy is if it's just a bother, why bother? Very simple. And he begins to attack the way that his father behaved. My father was concerned about this minuscule halacha, and he never explained, what it was about. So to him, it's like it's just a bunch of stupid laws. Why should I bother to follow them? But he knows the laws, by the way. Nowhere does it say the Russia doesn't know halacha. It says that he is against halacha. There's a very famous story that when, in the early days of the state, Ben Gurion was negotiating with Agudat Israel over different issues. Different issues. And negotiations at first were not going well until David Ben Gurion reminded the rabbis of Agudah, I know where you're coming from. I have that background. My son doesn't know where you're coming from. He doesn't have my background. So in other words, deal with me, otherwise it's going to be worse. And he is against everything the religious Jew stands for. Because to him, religion is just a bunch of worrying about stupid things. Um, did a drop of water fall on this matzah while it was being prepared? You're getting people who are like that. So the idea is experience it and show your children that you're experiencing it. Next comes the simple son. He's the son of the Rasha. So he's not really against Judaism, but he's like, what's going on here? In other words, he doesn't understand anything. So you have to take him and gently explain to him what this story is about, that God took us out of Egypt, and this is why we do these things. Finally, is the son who doesn't know how to ask. And there you have to go out of your way to reach him. Because he doesn't know the questions. At least the first three knew questions. He has no idea. He's a nice kid who simply doesn't know. And because his father was the simple son. So in other words, it goes from the Jew who's all concerned about the intricacies of Jewish law, but doesn't experience anything. To him, everything is that has to be done this way, and that's it. I don't want to hear about it. Uh, to the Rasha who says, this guy, my father, he might be a nice guy, might be smart, but he's tied up in all these dumb laws. And his son is a simple son who is Jewish, knows he's Jewish, but he doesn't quite get it. He doesn't know, he's asking, what is going on here? And then his son is the one who doesn't know how to ask because Nobody ever took him, and that's why it says you will open for him, or really, at betachlo means it's a your you and your wife have to do take care of him. So like that's a further meaning of the four sons and how they actually represent four generations of uh, the Jews who stop being religious and then they end up the son who doesn't know. Something to think about. Kaddish Rabbanim.